Clint.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, so I came across this poem from 1885, and it's by a lady named May Kendall, and it inspired me. I thought it would be really cool if I wrote a poem too. Can I read you May's poem?
Sure.
Okay, so this poem is about a trilobite. Do you know what a trilobite is?
I do. In fact, we've got one right here.
Ah, sweet. Yep. Did you know that those were fossils long before I was?
Really?
Yeah.
That makes sense, I suppose. They're not around today.
No.
Wasn't even around when you were there. Did you find this one?
No. I don't swim through rock.
Oh.
And anyways, okay. So this poem, it says, I wish our brains were not so good. I wish our skulls were thicker. I wish that evolution could have stopped a little quicker. For oh, it was a happy plight of liberty and ease to be a simple trilobite in the Silurian seas.
Nice. So are you going to do a poem about trilobites, or are you going to try something else?
I was thinking maybe fish?
Fish.
Fish.
Almost a trilobite.
Yeah. No.
No.
But yeah, I was thinking about fish, but because, I mean, I like fish and other people like fish, and I mean, but I don't know, like, how do fish relate to other things like you or me, or it's a little fuzzy.
Well, actually, there's a whole field of study called cladistics.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. That we use to interpret the relationships of different animals. And so we can use cladistics to build evolutionary trees that tell us about how animals are related to each other.
So a tree of animals.
A tree of animals. Yep, the tree of life, if you will.
Oh, okay. So what does that look like?
So, in a very simple sense, use our little drawing board here.
So convenient. You are so well prepared.
That's why I keep this here all the time.
Awesome.
I always sit next to a whiteboard just in case.
I could see that.
So, in a very simple sense, if we had, say, 3 rather different animals,
okay.
Let's say we had fish, and say we had a mosasaur,
me,
and say we had humans.
Okay.
So the structure of the tree can tell us about how they're all related. So in this case, you and I are more closely related to each other than we are to fish. Fish are more distantly related because they're farther down the tree. There's a deeper branching point. See, you and I have a common ancestor here, but you and I and fish have a much deeper or older common ancestor.
Okay.
So every time the tree comes together, these are common ancestors.
Ah.
So the closer something is, or 2 animals are to each other on that tree, the more closely related they are.
So now there's a lot of difference between a fish and a mosasaur.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of difference between you and me, too.
Really? Well, yeah, I suppose.
I mean, there's even differences between me and, say, my sister as well. So it just depends on what scale of differences you're looking at.
Scales! Fish have scales.
Fish do have scales, but not only fish have scales, though.
Okay, well, fish have scales. What about, am I saying this? Amphibians?
Amphibians?
Amphibians.
So you mean like salamanders and newts and frogs?
Yeah.
So they typically don't have scales, but they're also a little farther down the tree than you and I are. So if we were to look at that in relationship to fish, we would have to tuck those amphibians in right about there, right in between. So So we'll just put frog here to make it nice and simple.
Ribbit.
So in this case, you and I have a more recent ancestor with the frog than we do with fish.
Okay.
So in the way that we figure all this out using cladistics is to look at different features on the animals and then to see which animals share more features in common. Those animals are more closely related if they're more similar to each other, and the animals that share fewer features in common are more distantly related. So you and I would have more anatomical features in common than a frog or a fish would.
Okay, so what about things that kind of look the same on the outside? Like, what about I know that there's this dinosaur. It's called Dimetrodon and a crocodile. Yeah, because Dimetrodons are always in the dinosaur toy sets.
They're always in the dinosaur toy sets, but they aren't actually dinosaurs. They lived long before most dinosaurs, actually.
Then the toy companies are lying to me?
I'd say that they're just being a little loose with their definition of what a dinosaur is, and instead including kind of all animals with a fossil record as being dinosaurs for the sake of toy sales.
Fine. Okay. So this creature and crocodiles, they look really similar.
Yeah, I mean, superficially, the issue is that you have to look for shared features that are the same thing. So for example, if we're talking about like our hands, like you have flippers and I have hands, but the bones that make up those features are the same bones originally. We've just modified them in different ways. Now in other animals, they have different features that are made in completely different ways. So say like a bird's wing and a butterfly's wing. So a bird's wing,
they both fly.
They both fly. They're both wings, but a bird's wing is made with bones on the inside, whereas a butterfly doesn't have bones. So that's what we call convergent characters. Characters that are doing a similar function, but they don't have a shared origin. There's not one time that a wing evolved. It evolves again and again and again in different animals. So we wouldn't want to use that as a character to unite things. Otherwise, we would think that birds are more closely related to butterflies than they are to us. When in reality, because they have the same bones in their arm, in their wing, as we do in our arm, they're more closely related to us than they are to butterflies. So we have to be very careful with which characters we use to try to reconstruct these trees.
Oh, is that why we don't put a cactus and a porcupine together?
Correct, because while they both have pokey things on the outside, the pokey things don't have a shared history. What we call an apomorphy, so a unique character that shows up one time. Yeah, thank you. So that's a perfect example between the wings and the pokey things between a porcupine and a cactus. Just because something superficially looks the same doesn't mean it's the same feature.
Very interesting. So we have this tree with shared traits and how things kind of branch like a tree over time. But if you go back far enough, everything looks like a fish.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, because the common ancestor then of, say, humans and fish, if you went all the way back, would be much more looking like a fish than it would like a modern human, because fish are closer to that split on this timeline than we are.
I think that gives me some ideas. Can I borrow that black marker?
Sure.
Okay. Can you hold this? Can you hold that out? So everybody can see. Yeah. Okay. So
for having flippers, you have really good penmanship.
Oh, thank you. I practiced.
I assume so.
So how does this sound? There once lived a fish in the sea who learned of her family tree. For reptiles and birds, when tracing backwards, are all just fish who got fancy.
Nice. I like it. both, very acoustically pleasing and accurate.
Ha! Science meet poetry. Hey, you out there. Do you think you could make some science poetry? What do you think?
I think they could. Just take a little effort and think real hard, and you can probably come up with maybe not quite that good. I mean, this is an exceptional poem, but
thank you.
but I'm sure they can come up with something.
Well, I know I would love to see if any of you come up with your own prehistoric poetry. I know I would love to hear it.
Yeah, so would I. Yeah, thanks for stopping by.